Okay, so now we're in synchronous session 4, which will be the last class that you have with them next week, or in the second week of school. So you can open up the class just reminding students of the goal, making sure everyone turned in their recording. I'm going to show you guys how I set up the Schoology. So I have two sections that happen to both end on the same day. So in my case, if you look at my calendar, my last class for both sections happens to be both on the 20th. So my due date I put as the 20th for both of them at 8 a.m. If if you have two sections and your last class is on a different day, you might modify that. But so I just put the story of self assignment. And you see that both due dates I have set for the 20th at 8 a.m. just before their class, because that's what we're saying so I just called it Story of Self-Recording, and there's a template there that I created that just says, feel free to create a copy of this. This is something that will give them access to in synchronous session 3. So remember that synchronous session 3 has ended with them kind of working on that, and they can access the template. And then remind them your recording is due before the next class. So now it's the next class. So welcome everybody. Remember that we're focusing on using the power of storytelling to bring aspects of ourselves and our identities into the classroom. Before we do that though, we're going to do something called a macro lab. So I'm just going to throw you guys into breakout rooms, keep your cameras on, don't talk, and a prompt will appear. So what we know as teachers is that we're going to wait like an awkward 30 seconds for it to be sort of weird and remind them don't talk. Maybe through the broadcast message, you can even just say, don't talk, I'm sending the prompt in a second, and then bring them back after, a minute. I wrote some sample prompts here at the bottom in the notes if you want to use those, but you can also come up with your own. But I'm going to use prompt number 1, share a fear you have about the future. Prompt number 2, share something you're proud of in your life. Prompt number 3, share a hope you have for the future. So we'll bring them back, really quickly recreate. So I have it 3 times. That's more just a reminder for us that we're going to do this 3 times. Again, there's no Nearpod for these 2 sync sessions because there's just no need for it. Because everything is interactive through breakout rooms and them working on their stories in the other class. So I just have the same slide copied 3 times. More so, again, it's like a reminder for me, I brought them back and then okay, so we're going to do it again. Place you in new rooms. Go, make sure your camera's on, don't talk, you'll get a prompt. You do it again a 3rd time. So I just did 1, 2, 3, it's the same exact slide. And then you're going to bring them back and say, okay, really quick, folks, just think about what just happened. I didn't give you a lot of directions other than to be in the room, to not talk, until you got a prompt. What was challenging about that, and maybe what do you think is one positive about it, if you can name one? Read out some of the things that are in the chat that maybe some of the kids write. And then you would go on to the next slide, which is just the terms vulnerability and discomfort. So really what that activity was intended to do. And you can even explain how it was done in the classroom before distance learning was a thing, of the way this is used to be done in the classroom is kids actually had to walk around, and then when the music stopped, find someone and just stare at them for 30 seconds until I gave them something to talk about. And it's a way to sort of simulate vulnerability and discomfort, because it's uncomfortable to look someone in the eyes. It's uncomfortable to not, have a specific thing to talk about and just be kind of sitting in the awkwardness. And so we wanted to actually practice that comfort with discomfort and that vulnerability, because that's what today's class is about, in sharing our stories of self. So remember, your story of self was, you remind them, you recorded about a challenge you've had in your life, a choice, and the outcome. And all through that story, the purpose was to reveal something about your identity, your value system, who you were. And so we're going to set you guys into some breakout rooms. There's going to be rooms of 2 or 3. Trying to go for 3 in each room. If you have a room of 2, then you just have a little bit more time to talk. But the protocol is going to be, one person's going to share, the other 2 people, as they listen, one person should summarize back after the first person shares, and the other person will make a personal connection. And then you just rotate and repeat. So again, if there's 3 people, person A will share, then person B should summarize. Okay, here's the challenges that I heard, here's the choice, here's the outcome, and then person C would make a personal connection, and then you rotate and do that again. So we'll pop in and out of rooms to remind you guys of the directions. So that's kind of what you're going to tell them that they're going to be doing, and just kind of in telling their stories of self. And then because we had them do recording, so Julian, we talked about this in our meeting on Wednesday. Emily suggested doing a recording, which we realized was like a really cool idea because then it gives kids, and Camilo pointed out, like it also gives kids the options who are really shy when they're in their breakout rooms, if they don't want to tell their story, they can just play their recording. And so we'll tell them that here, like you have the option, you can just tell your story, like the recordings we're all going to listen to as your teachers, but you can tell your story or you can play your recording if you want. It's up to you. You guys are going to have about 15 to 20 minutes in your breakout rooms to go through to make sure everyone gets a chance to share, everyone gets a chance to make connections and sort of build on accomplish that goal of using storytelling to build community. So you'll have them do that for 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes, and then bring them back and say, like, so hopefully that was an opportunity for you to get to know something about your classmates that maybe you didn't know before. If that was uncomfortable for you, because maybe you were in a room with someone you don't normally hang out with, you did a great job practicing comfort with discomfort, which is one of our norms. And that's kind of, we want to introduce that into not only introduce ourselves into the space, but also introduce like kind of breaking out of our comfort zone, because that's going to be a part of this class. And then for the close, I thought about like using that same format of challenge and choice. And so asking everyone to think. So silently, like before we close, I want you guys to think about, what are some challenges you might anticipate happening in this course. So just silently think about what are some challenges you think are going to come up as we engage in this course, whether it be through distance learning or when we're back on campus. And then after you give them a couple minutes, like a minute or so to think about that, ask them, what choice do you think you'll have to make in the face of those challenges to have a successful outcome? And maybe have them write it in the chat, or you can just have them silently reflect on it. This is however you want to choose to close. I do think that this lesson plan will end a little bit early, like it'll probably end at an hour instead of an hour and 15 minutes. But I think that that's okay. We know we have an hour and 15-minute block, but I think that this one will probably end around an hour, which I think is fine because they'll have done a lot of sharing and interacting. So yeah, this is kind of the end of it. You let them know like there will be challenges in this class. Hopefully you'll make choices to be successful, and that's it. So that is synchronous session 4. Let me know if you guys have any questions at all about running this session. If there's anything you want to change or do differently, obviously you have the freedom to do so, but all these slides are in the same folder where everything else is. For rotation 1, you see it here, synchronous 3 and 4. There's no need to like open it up in Nearpod or create it as a Nearpod, because like I said, everything that's super interactive for these sessions are through the breakout rooms. And so I didn't add any like fancy Nearpod slides. I'm just going to use the regular slides. Cool. All right. Let me know if y'all have any questions, and we will be meeting again next Wednesday on August 19th.